The Orange Zone, sponsored by Billy Whitaker Cars and Trucks and Apex Entertainment.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into another episode of the Orange Zone podcast. We have Ashley Wenskoski. We got former SU running back, Super Bowl champion James Mungro. Rachel Culver is on the producer mic. I'm Samantha Croston. We're joining you here today after Syracuse beat Cal, a 33-25 win over the Golden Bears, and the Orange led for the entire 60 minutes. Saw a couple of things in that game that we haven't seen all season long. How we feeling?
Feeling good. Feeling really good. We accomplished two things. We got a W, and Coach was able to wash his ass before he left California.
Winners get washed.
That's right.
Winners get washed. We also finally played a complete game of football. I really feel like we played a complete 60 minutes, 4 quarters of complimentary football, and we have not seen that yet this season prior to that.
Worth noting, since you brought it up, after that game, obviously, Fran Brown says in the post-game interview, winners get washed. There's a clothing brand now. So there's a little winners get washed shirt that he's wearing and selling for $48.
$48, like for a t-shirt.
It's a lot of money. And it
That's a lot of
includes
money,
tax
t-shirt.
and shipping, but damn, that's an expensive shirt. But it is funny. And I just want to say this now because I've been telling anyone who will listen that this is my next idea. I actually need to give credit. I was explaining the story to my dad, so it was more collaborative here. But he thought that it would be funny if they have a t-shirt that says on the back, it says, or no, on the front it says Fran's Clan or Fran's Band, and on the back it says don't disrespect the band.
You don't want to put Clan in there at all.
Why not?
That's one word.
Well, all right.
So that's something we'll go back to. But the moral of the story is I like the one-liners. And I think the
I
phrases
think that would
and
be
stuff
good. Yeah.
make sense.
I think you should get some good money off of these T-shirts and then donate that to charity.
You know what?
See that?
I
Now you got
saw
something in there.
that.
I was thinking that too. So, and listen, for the record, if he
right
wants
now-
to keep his money, that's fine. But I want to tell you this because I think it's interesting
That'd
you
be
said
very
that.
nice.
It would be very nice. But when I actually, one of our interns, our CNY Central intern, Ailey Weiss, asked that question about where did the proceeds go? And he said that was too personal. And I even asked the lady who's involved with the shirts, and she said that's not public information.
His bank account.
That Sean told me, our boss here told me that means if he won't say, it's because he's pocketing the money, which is fine.
He should.
But in my
it was
mind,
his line, yeah.
it was 100%.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I thought he'd have something like what you said, like it would be getting donated to a charity or something.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I'm gonna say it, Coach. $48 is steep for a t-shirt. Let's not forget our roots here, all right? $48 is a lot.
We're in Syracuse.
At least make it 44.
Yeah, I actually like that idea. That makes sense.
That makes more sense there, Rachel.
Now you're thinking.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about this game. This was a Cal win. This was a good win. Kyle McCord completed 29 of his 46 passing attempts in the win, totaling 323 yards. What's new? He made his 8th 300-yard performance of the season. LaQuinn Allen had a day. I mean, Gadsden was involved in there. Who stuck out to you guys? What stuck out to you?
Defense.
Defense.
Yes, no, they looked like a well-oiled machine there. I'm telling you, the defense looked really good, I thought. We had control of the game the whole time. That was something different that we haven't seen all year. And the guys actually went out there and looked like a really good football team.
Yeah, I think surprising. I was surprised, at least, to see them come out and have such a good game. Obviously, you're flying 3,000 miles across the country. You had a shorter trip to Boston College the last week where you fell apart. So I was happy to see it. I mean, again, I guess I did say 4 quarters of football, and they did. You saw another, I guess you'd say, a little bit of a slow start. The first quarter, they had to kick 2 field goals.
But we got points, though. That's the whole thing. We got points.
Right. And shout out to Jackson Kennedy, the new kicker, who I know we've talked to. We've put him out on social media. I mean, 4 for 4 with those field goals. He didn't miss an extra point. Jackson Kennedy is out there cooking. Cornell transfer.
He's having a freaking storybook year.
Yeah.
Like, he did not start the year, and ever since, I feel like he had, like we asked Coach Brown in one of the press conferences, is there any more competition in this? A reporter had asked, and he's like, if he continues to kick it through the uprights, there is no more competition.
Yeah.
He's a starter for the rest of the year. And I think that's a good answer.
Yeah.
If everything's going right, why
4
fix
for
something
4.
that isn't broken? Hell yeah.
Exactly.
The defense, the offense, I think it is worth noting before we move on to UConn. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but after this Cal win, in my mind, I thought they win the games that I think they might lose,
Yeah.
and they lose the games that I feel like they should win. Does anyone else have that feeling?
That's funny you said that because I actually went over today and I looked at the schedule and I was just looking at the schedule. And, there's 3 losses we have. Stanford, a couple points. We got blown out by Pittsburgh. That was a loss. Then, Boston College. It's like we're so close. We're right there playing sloppy-ass football, like very sloppy football, and we're that close. So I could see the bitterness that Coach has in his mouth with the losses, but we're right there. We really are right there. And now if they could just, continue to stay consistent and have that same type of same type of attitude going into this game, things would be looking really good going into the Miami game.
Yeah, also worth pointing out the O-line played a lot better. I know we've talked about that, and that's certainly a reason for some of their earlier struggles. They put in David Wolba in there, made a few changes, and the O-line looked better. So we'll see if they stick with that formula.
Yeah, I agree. Similar format as far as everybody's kind of getting a touch. Gadsden recorded his second straight 100-yard outing, finishing with 8 catches for 109 yards. Trevor Pena, key in the passing attack. He caught 11 passes, a career high for him, with 97 yards. And Jackson Meeks also had a receiving touchdown. So appreciate that whole sharing the wealth sort of idea. Obviously, all of that comes from Kyle McCord, who, again, worth noting, he accepted an invite to play in a pre-NFL draft all-star game, the East-West Shrine Bowl on January 30th in Dallas. So got to give him some claps for that. Yeah, I think we know he has a bright future. What do you guys think lies ahead for him? Do you guys think that he is going to play in the NFL?
I think he's going to get opportunity. Obviously, he's going to get opportunity, but there's some things obviously he needs to work on and get straightened out before makes that really next big step. But he's right there, and he seems like he's the type of kid that wants to learn and get better. So he's coachable. That's another thing as well.
Yeah, I think there are some quarterbacks throughout college football that are probably going to get drafted higher than him, that, are probably going to pique the interest of NFL teams a little more than Kyle McCord, especially with, you've seen the NFL, I feel like in recent years, trends more towards that mobile quarterback, not really a traditional pocket passer like Kyle McCord. But that doesn't mean there isn't a place for them. I think he will get a shot. And I think, we're seeing what Tommy DeVito's doing with the Giants. If Tommy DeVito can get a shot somewhere, I think Kyle McCord can get a shot somewhere. Holy smokes, Tommy Cutlets is back, folks.
That's a little off to the left, but I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, me too.
Fire me up for Sunday at 1 o'clock. Dude, what is Daniel Jones? Why was I thinking in my head his last name was DeVito? It's not. It's Tommy DeVito.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones blows.
Daniel Jones is the third-string quarterback. Did you see the press release? They literally said Drew Lock's the backup. Bye-bye.
He is horrific. Yeah. Good riddance. I want to see somebody else out there. I'm pumped up. I'm excited.
Me too. The Giants need a spark. They need the Tommy DeVito energy from last year, because otherwise the Giants are dead in the water.
I'll be honest with you, I'm more excited to see his agent, what his agent's going to be wearing.
I
can't wait to see what the agent's going to have on and how the crowd's going to be all amped up. But, good for him. Since you mentioned that, too, Tucker's having a hell of a year down in Tampa. I did not think he was a professional running back. I did not think he would make it. And, good luck to him. I mean, he's doing his thing. I mean, he's representing, and he's totally took his game to the next level.
I think McCord has an NFL arm for sure. I think it'll be more about, does he fit somewhere? Is a team willing to give him that chance? And we'll see.
You know what? It goes to show you that anything can happen.
Yes.
And that's why you got to have, take that chance and take that opportunity. But I will say, and I thought you would be interested to hear this, that another thing that was said in this week's press conference, Maddie from News Channel 9 had asked a question about, ahead of senior day, what do you have to say about the senior class? Because as a reminder to everybody, senior day is actually going to be against UConn. They're not doing it against Miami because it's Thanksgiving week. So they didn't think there'd be as many people there. That makes sense. Probably true. Maybe they also thought they'd lost. I don't know. Ashley feels like they're probably hiding behind an excuse, but that's what they said.
I think it's easier to do it against UConn. That's all I got to say. Vibes are going to be better.
No one's denying that. But he said, he was like, there are a lot of guys who know that they're not going to the NFL. And he's like, to tell you the truth, we're not really talking about football much anymore. We talk about resumes. We talk about where you want to work. We talk about what your future holds. He said, because there's this little pocket of depression that happens when you no longer have the game in front of you. Right. And the way to fill that is to feel like that you're going to be successful right away. Did they have those kinds of resources and people talking about those? I know you went to the NFL, so maybe a different story there, but I'm just curious.
It's, it's going to be a very emotional time for all the guys there. But the resources they have different resources. I would like them to put more resources in for the guys, depending, with guys trying to leave early and stuff like that. I think that's really something that needs to be spoken upon throughout the NCAA. But they did have resources, and, the guys up at Syracuse are very clear and very understanding, and, they'll help them out with any decisions you have to make. But, that's why you have an agent and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
And keep your eyes on senior day, by the way, too. It's always a little bit interesting to see who walks that's not a senior. Does LaQuinn Allen walk? LaQuinn Allen's a junior. It doesn't mean they're not coming back for sure, but it might give you a little indication into which way they're leaning for next year.
Preach. Let's talk about UConn. It's senior day. The Orange and the Huskies both entering Saturday's game with identical 7-3 records. But UConn is coming off of a bye week. Maybe that could be a good thing. Maybe that could work in Syracuse's favor if they play like Syracuse coming off a bye week.
Yeah.
UConn. What does anyone have to say about UConn as an opponent? Did you play against UConn?
I did not play against UConn.
Okay.
I did not.
I was just curious.
But I think UConn's going to bring their A game. I mean, why not? There's a very Northeast team. They're going to come, same record. Looking at UConn's record, who they played over this past year, they're in a lower level league, but they still play some quality opponents. So we can't take them lightly at all, by no means.
Yep, good thing here. The Huskies have been strong at home, going 5-1, but they're 1-2 on the road this season. Also, as far as extra motivation for Syracuse, it says that they have a chance to record their 8th regular season win on Saturday, something that has only been done twice by the Orange since 2000 in 01 and 18. That's astonishing when you think about it.
24 years, goodness gracious.
Good grief.
Yeah. No, I was talking about that in the sportscast last night. Like, apparently 8 wins is a huge deal around. I mean, I know, but like apparently we have not gotten 8 wins in quite some time.
Wow.
It's crazy when you think about that. Actually, for all the years of playing here. Watching Syracuse and playing here, and I was a member of the 2001 team. But it's just it's amazing to see that. And we have a new coach, and we're 7-3.
Yeah.
And could be potentially 8-3.
Yeah, I think what sticks out to me about UConn is, they've leaned heavily on their run game. As you mentioned, they ranked 20th in the country, actually, with that. They're averaging 204 rushing yards per game. So they're going to try to run it down Syracuse's throat. Is Syracuse going to be able to stop the run? We've asked this question before this year. Also, UConn, not a Power 5 team, but like you mentioned, James, they have had some high-caliber opponents this year. They lost to both Wake Forest and Duke, 2 ACC teams, by 5 points or less. It was a really close game to Wake Forest. So it's not to say that they can't give an ACC team a run for their money.
And we got to play our A game. I mean, we know if we don't play our game, what happens?
Right.
I mean, we know that we make mistakes. The last game we had 5 penalties for 40 yards. So we're getting
8 still. I think it was 8 penalties. Is that wrong? I don't know.
6 penalties. Sorry, 6 penalties for 50 yards.
In the middle.
To exact. And the time possession is going to be a big key too as well, because when the team runs the ball, they hold the ball. They let the clock run all the way down. So we're getting better. And as long as we play our game and focus on what Coach Brown is preaching to the kids this week, we'll be fine. But again, they have to go out there and put that on the field and do it.
If there's one thing that this season has taught me, it's that sometimes the numbers just don't tell the whole story.
It doesn't. It really,
yes.
Yes,
I feel like
agree.
you always say that because you've played football and it's sort of a different perspective. And as journalists, it is our job to look at the numbers and the stats and whatnot. But even if you're just looking within the ACC, outside of maybe, I don't know, Miami or whatever, doesn't it sort of feel like a lot of those teams could beat a lot of those teams? Like anything could kind of happen on any given day?
I think throughout college football this year, it's a lot of parity, because I don't want to say because of the 12-team playoff, but you just have a lot of SEC teams that have 2 losses. You have a more even playing field throughout the country this year.
And you know what kills me a little bit? I don't know that even with 2 losses it would have been enough. But to Mungro's point, like sometimes it does feel like we were on the cusp, or Syracuse was on the brink of potentially that ACC championship or even greater. Like it's crazy that 1 or 2 wins, like the Stanford 4th and 9 could have, the Pitt game was a blowout, so I think it was just a loss.
Yes.
But BC, it's crazy that it could be a different story.
We could have beat BC and we could have beat Stanford. Now, if we beat that, now we only have 1 loss. So that's a totally different.
Yeah, I've been saying it for weeks.
It would be totally different feeling we would have right now.
I feel like 2 things are very true, right? First-year coaching staff, by all means, a successful year, even if it's 8 wins. I mean, if it's 9 wins and they beat Miami, certainly. Even if they go 8-4, certainly a success. That's true. It's also true that you kind of feel like there is some talent left on the table this year with Kyle McCord as your quarterback, losing to Boston College and Pittsburgh. I just think that's true.
Yeah, so maybe 2 things can be true. One other interesting stat, just to say it, Connecticut has lost each of its last 7 road games against opponents from the ACC. Not bad if you're Syracuse. Anything else that you guys want to say about UConn or that upcoming matchup? And then we're going to talk about a few interesting things that were said in the press conference.
I mean, I'm going to confidently put this down as a Syracuse win. I think Syracuse wins this game, but it doesn't change the fact that they're not just going to be able to, lay down and go to sleep. I mean, if they can't stop the run, we saw it against Boston College. This will be a closer game than you think if Syracuse does not have that run defense.
And, to the point of that as well is we just played Cal. And the running back, when he scored those touchdowns on those long runs, like nobody touched him at all.
Yeah.
And he got bottled up in the middle, and like all of a sudden no one knew where he
got
was
away.
at. And then he just came out of nowhere and just straight down the field. But yeah, I would agree with you as well. I would write this in as a W.
I'll also write it in as a dub. I also think there is a lot to play for here. I know that there's no way to measure this, but I think knowing Fran Brown, knowing that team and the chemistry they have, senior day is a big deal to
Yeah.
a team like
Of
this.
course.
And that's going to be part of the narrative and part of the conversation going out on the field is you only have a certain amount of games left with these guys. This is who you need to be playing for and focusing on right now. That fired me up. It did fire me up.
And, I think, by when to give Syracuse the benefit of the doubt by having senior day against UConn, the last game is against Miami, obviously we know that. And, all that pressure, senior day. So get it out the way now. Get it done over with now because there's going to be a lot of emotions going through those guys' minds. But and the good thing about it is you still have another game to play against Miami at home. So it'll be emotional for them. It really will be.
That's what I was going to say. And not only that, but you have a chance to, I guess, build some momentum, right? You won at Cal. If you win against UConn, all of a sudden you do have a little bit of momentum going into that Miami game, which, again, number 11 team in the country. But any momentum you can build, you have them at home in your building, is a positive going into that game.
Yep. Well, either way, congratulations to the seniors from our Orange Zone
Yes.
team on an awesome season. Coach Brown actually said a lot of things about them, but one thing I liked is he said, these dudes are amazing and have helped carve me into a better man already within less than a year. So pretty cool words coming from him. Let's just also talk about this. One other thing that came up in the press conference. Syracuse offensive coordinator Jeff Nixon was linked to an open position at Temple.
Head coaching position.
As was, who's the other guy who was also linked to something? It wasn't just Jeff Nixon who they were talking about.
Well, I
it
think
was somebody
Fran
else I
was
thought too.
referencing Elijah Robinson as well, defensive coordinator.
Okay.
But I believe Jeff Nixon was the one really linked
All
to
right,
that
fair
role.
enough. He essentially, I want to say dispelled the rumors, but he didn't say that it was off the table 100% either. He said if there was a lot of money involved, that's something that could change things. But he also said that a lot of his assistant coaches, based on the way things are going, based on how successful they've been and what they're building, will be looking for Power 4 offers, and that's what they prefer to have. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. It's sort of an odd time, but I thought it was a good question that was brought up,
Yeah, I think it was a non-committal. He said, I'll read the quote. He said, me and Jeff haven't sat there and talked about the Temple report, but I know we've talked a lot before that. I didn't have to go to him about that because I already know him. That is not something Jeff is going to go and explore. I was when I heard that, I was like, well, what if Jeff does want to go and explore it? How do you know? But especially
Poor
a guy,
Jeff.
Jeff has been on the Temple coaching staff before, previously in his coaching career, and he has those Jersey, Philly roots. So you might even think Temple is a job that could be, desirable to him. But I totally see where Fran Brown is coming from. And he also mentioned that, it's an honor a little bit to have your own coordinators and your own coaches in these conversations because now Fran Brown gets to build his own coaching tree one day. And of course, he's a product of Kirby Smart's coaching tree at Georgia. So
His own family tree. I love that quote so much. But I do find that interesting because I do think that would be a great job. And like you mentioned, there are roots and connections there. And yet still, he says, he didn't degrade it. He's like, I think Temple's an amazing job for someone to get. I feel when you're at a university as prestigious as Syracuse is, and when we continue to win the way we'll continue to win, there will be opportunities that will put them at the Power 4 level instead of having to go down a level to coach.
Yeah.
I found that fascinating because I feel like in the same way he's trying to push his players, he's also looking at his assistant coaches and truly thinking, what are going to be the best opportunities for them and how can I help them get there? And I respect that.
And I think, too, as well as coach wants the other coaches and the players to stay focused on right now what's going on. They just got a W. Things weren't the greatest this year, but they weren't the worst at all by no means. So they are, like you said, they're building something really strong here. And, a lot of the coaches probably want to be, would like to still be a part of that, and not jump ship and try to start rebuilding all over again at another program. So there's a lot of stuff, comes into that decision. But I would imagine he would really actually think about it, after the season, after the regular season. I
will say Jeff Nixon in specific with that NFL experience that he has as a position coach, I would not be surprised if Jeff Nixon only has a few years at Syracuse. I don't think it'll be long before maybe he does get a head coaching opportunity that he is interested in.
And you know what? That's the way it should be, in a sense.
Yeah.
I agree with Coach Brown that means that they are doing something right, that their names are being brought up in the conversation. I know we can't predict it, but I really would love to know how long Fran Brown is going to be at Syracuse for.
Well, let's just like be grateful we have him now.
Preach.
Be grateful we have Kyle now as well.
Yeah.
Because, obviously this team is doing well this year, but next year it'll be a totally different team.
I agree with that, and I think how successful this team has been, what they were able to do in their first year, this exact team and what it did for the community and all of that, it's not going to be replicated. Yeah, it can't be replicated, and it was special. All right, we'll wrap it up here. Syracuse's regular season finale again is against Miami. It's in a prime time TV viewing window. The Orange and Hurricanes will kick off at 3:30 p.m. on November 30th inside the JMA Wireless Dome. ESPN will televise the game. They're hyping it up. They're ready to see it. We're ready to talk about
National
it.
TV, but it's another
I'm
national
nervous.
TV
I'm
spot that makes
nervous.
me
I'm
nervous.
nervous.
Every time the
Goodness.
Syracuse Orange play on ESPN, things go to hell.
Maybe we should just not televise it. Just come to the game and watch it. We'll keep it low
ESPN, we
stakes.
don't want you. Like, we don't.
I remember
See, W6.
my main man, Keith Bullock, man, one of my teammates. Man, he said something last year. It could have been a year ago, 2 years ago. He says, "Please don't put us on national TV no more. Just don't do that. Just don't do that."
One of the few schools that's never had college game day ever.
And I was thinking about that. And if they won against Boston College, I was ready to start pushing for it. But now I'm kind of like,
You were going to have your flags out for Miami.
I'm serious. I was ready to start with, hey, I got a game for you.
Well, the thing is, even with it, is like it is during break,
Yeah,
so they would be coming, and it would be like a kind of relatively no student empty dome, sort of. So that's not, and
it
it's
would be
also
lame.
and
They'd be
it's
like,
also
Syracuse
like
sucks.
You get the community in there then. That's how you get the community involved.
Clemson and South Carolina are playing that day.
That's
like,
the problem.
There's rivalry games
Yes.
happening that they're going to be
That's the
focusing
issue.
on.
But that's what I hated so much about the Syracuse schedule this year, and then I'll shut up. They had no home games in October again, which I hate, and then their final 2 home games are both bookending the Thanksgiving break. No one's going to be here for UConn, and no one's going to be here for Miami. What are we doing? Then there's going to be no one in the dome. What are we doing?
Okay, we'll talk more about Miami when we see you next week. Until then, focus on the game on UConn. Find us anywhere on social media at the Orange Zone Podcast. Thanks so much, as always, for your support.